7, they kind of knew what I was trying to do here. And I said bees would be important on campus for a couple of reasons. Kind of once they heard, you got bees on campus? I'm like, well, yeah, we've got bees. You want to come out and hunt? Well, yeah. Or they find their pollen, they find their nectar, and they bring it back to the hive. And they get this wonderful social network set up there that's the kind of thing that I want to try to teach to kids. Mm-hmm. So I started with the younger kids. 7th graders that I had, I took them out there. But it was the younger kids that really I wanted to impress and try to teach them that bees are okay, that they're important in our environment, and that we have to, a third of our fruits and vegetables are pollinated by bees. That really helped me get into the lower school and the pre-primary schools. So now we're talking kids, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds that are into this stuff. It's interesting. They really get a kick out of seeing that many bees. And I put them around a table where I have pretty good control, and I don't have teachers there to help me. So that's really significant. But I think it really hooks them into understanding or wanting to know more about bees. You've got a mass of thousands of bees in a tight space. How do they communicate? What's the communication that they use? What their jobs are? You've got guard bees, you've got undertaker bees, you have nurse bees, you have attendants to the queen. I mean, you got all those different roles that they play, and they seem to get along. We do run a class here called Cat Academy, and it's neat. It's 2 days a week here, but it was gardens, greenhouse, and bees last year. So I did get some of these kids out to look at the hive. But generally what I'll get is 2 or 3 or 4 kids that are really excited about this. And those are the kinds of kids I'd like to try to train going forward to see if they can't be a mentor for younger kids. What it does is it creates a sort of a campus consciousness. That we have a hive on campus, and with that comes along responsibility. But I think once people understand that what we're doing with it is to teach kids more about the wonderful life cycle of bees and how important that they are to our environment. It's interesting talking from a broader standpoint of how those bees fit into the whole scope of the ecosystem and what we're trying to do with them. Are we all about honey? Honey's delicious, it's a great food. That's the biggest change that I've seen in our kids is they realize that it's not all about the honey, it's all about the bees. And we've got to protect those bees. Those are great lessons for kids to learn at a young age, that they have a responsibility to be on this planet too. Our goal is to try to get them to just interact with the bees and really learn something about them so that when they're not at school and they see a bee, they can appreciate that organism. I like the Beepod system because you can deal with it bar by bar, so all the workers aren't visibly distressed when you do that. So I like the whole concept of that. It makes a lot more sense. It's easier to inventory and evaluate, and you can really tell the health of the hive. Then I think once you determine what you want your purpose to be with the hive, is then to talk to a few people that are central to what has to be done in the school. For stings, I said, how many kids at this school out of the population have had an anaphylactic reaction to a bee sting? And when I got the answer, I don't think we've had any, then I said, well, then you want to start to introduce what your point of view is. So you don't want to rush in and demand that you have them on campus. Eventually, if you say you've talked to the security and you've talked to the nurse and you've talked to a few faculty, then you want to start with your administrators. You want to get it up to the top. You get your assembled team and then just say, we have this that we'd like to do. You've got to become familiar with the system, and you've got to be willing to take risks. And if you're not willing to take risks and be around bees, then it's like a teacher. If you're not willing to be with kids, you shouldn't be a teacher. So once it's on campus, it kind of has a life of its own. You have to judge some of the goals that you want to do with it. With the lower school kids, I like the pre-primary lower school kids because you can design a whole unit on this, and they can actually see what's happening. They can write about it. They can talk about it. They can take data on it, do science with it. You find when you teach kids this stuff, there's a level of empathy that you have, not only for the bees, but for the people that you work with. And that's what creates your team. I will ask my kids, kids, what do you want to learn about bees? What's cool about bees that you think? Write me 10 questions right now that you don't know about bees that you want to know more about. Okay? It's the classic, what I don't know, what I know, and what I want to know.
Clothes on.